If you ask many different leaders, what is a sales strategy? How do you go about building it? Everybody's going to have their own unique way of doing it. And it typically surrounds writing down lots of people that you need in the team, maybe some ideas around the tools that you need. And then you hopefully submit a budget request to the business, the upper lords, to say, please, can I have all of these things so that I can go and execute my sales strategy? See, the problem with that is it's often built in isolation of the broader business goals. Most people in their plan, their sales strategy is, I need 10 people and I need a sales platform. And finance is like, no and no. And when we get this wrong, it can be detrimental to the business performance, but also to our own careers. So in this video, I'm going to spend more time going into what a sales strategy is, at least in my head, how it starts to connect to the broader business and goals, and then just a simple way that you can start to think through it so you can develop more robust plans that you feel confident in. And whether you're in this role or moving on to your next role, whether you're a founder or a leader in a bigger organization, you can come with a structure that is trustworthy and makes you stand out as the superhero in the leadership team. All right, so today we're going to talk about sales strategy. I always say that sales strategy tends to get used quite synonymously with go-to-market strategy or just strategy in general. And what we've been unpacking over the last few videos is that it actually gets a bit more nuanced than that, and that's what we're going to dive into today. Because if you ask many different leaders, what is a sales strategy? How do you go about building it? Everybody's going to have their own unique way of doing it. And it typically surrounds writing down lots of people that you need in the team, maybe some ideas around the tools that you need, and then you hopefully submit a budget request to the business, the upper lords, to say, please, can I have all of these things so that I can go and execute my sales strategy? See, the problem with that is it's often built in isolation of the broader business goals. Also, the sales strategy is used as the overall go-to-market, and the things that sales are planning to do often fall out of sync with what other departments are planning to do. And this is why I always say when we think about strategy as a goal, we should look at go-to-market and then look at every other strategy as expressions of the whole, all right? So they are the siblings, they are the offsprings of the parents. I don't know why I always do this to myself. Anyways, so what are we going to do about it? When we get sales strategy wrong, it means from the outset, from the plan, it doesn't work. It doesn't allow us to build confidence in our team and also the people who are depending on us, the senior leaders, to go and do something that's going to help the business reach the desired goals and objectives. And when we get this wrong, it can be detrimental to the business performance, but also to our own careers. So if this is the first time that I am appearing in your feed, I'm Ajikawo, CEO and founder of Revenue Funnel. We are a go-to-market consulting and technology firm. We help businesses to identify and solve a lot of these structural issues that slow down their growth through technology, where they can get help and expertise, and also through our consulting services. Now, I've been in go-to-market for close to 18 years now, so I'm a big girl, and I've seen a lot of stuff. I've helped more than 40 organizations to rethink their go-to-market, helped to support and generate tens of millions, dozens of millions, whatever you want to put it, in pipeline, helping organizations get to their next stage of growth, whatever it is. I've been there and done it. What I find is that oftentimes online there's a lot of stuff shared, but the most important things are rarely taught, and that's what I like to focus on. So let's get into it. So sales strategy. We're going to go back to the go-to-market very quickly, okay? So first thing that we always do is we ground ourselves in understanding what the hell things are. So right at the center of everything, every business exists to make money. From that, in order for them to get there, they develop goals and objectives. So this is the upper lords, right? So investors, shareholders, board members, they say, this year we need to hit 100 million. Now, in order to hit the goals and objectives, they want to see what you're going to do about it. So they say, what's the plan? Okay. So effectively, that is your go-to-market strategy. So the go-to-market strategy then becomes your comprehensive plan for how you are going to bring your products and services to market, to hit the market, so that you can reach your desired outcomes as an organization. The desired outcome from your organization is always going to be to drive revenue, to retain revenue, to create more revenue. There's nothing else. You can try to be very philanthropic and we just want to help people and be amazing. None of that can happen without revenue. All right. So now that we're here, what do we see from here? This is where the business makes a comprehensive plan. This is what we're doing this year. And then out of this plan, we get various different iterations. We call them the different strategies that happen at the more kind of like next level down, divisions or teams or etc. And we call this the different expressions, right? So you might have a product strategy, a sales strategy, which is what we're going to focus on, a marketing strategy, and then we might have a data strategy, customer success strategy, customer service strategy, whatever it is. But effectively, these all become expressions. So this has to tie into the overall direction, okay? You can't get into a car and drive it in a different direction if you are not in the driving seat owning the overall thing, okay? So you've really got to make sure that you understand collectively before you build your plan at your division level, what the hell is happening at the top? What have we really agreed? And can I make sure that whatever I'm building is compliant with that, okay? So now that we know that, so your sales strategy is effectively going to be your comprehensive plan. So we like to use comprehensive because it's detailed. Comprehensive plan for how you will generate, respond, and convert demand in order to bring or deliver your, this is long, products and services to market to reach revenue goals, right? So reach your revenue goals. Now, the reason why, I'm just going to quickly touch on why I put generate, respond, and convert. So in our marketing strategy definition, if you haven't watched that video, oh well, you should probably go back to it. And I know you haven't because the views are low. We said that marketing strategy is really about how you generate demand in a market that has a need, right? But not all organizations have marketing set up that way, even though it should. So what happens is sales take on part of the responsibility to generate a demand in a space. It's often when you have a really small team, I see that a lot, but if you are a sizable organization, I say sizable meaning you've now got some customers, ideally you're about $1 million or $2 million in revenue. I know the structure of businesses is changing completely because of AI, but let's just go to the old school way. If you already have, I guess, some kind of product market fit, which means whatever you've produced is now repeatedly being sold into a particular market and they're getting value from it and they stay, then it's oftentimes that you've gone beyond just generating your own sales and generating your own demand. But sometimes sales are required to generate demand. The next thing is responding to. So sometimes there's already demand up there, marketing have given you an at-bat and you're like, pow, how are we going to respond to that? How are we going to engage that demand of that awareness, that knowledge of our organization, that awareness and knowledge of the issues, challenges, and opportunities, the needs that are being established in our core market? How are we going to respond to that? And then the slam dunk is how we convert it. So you're trying as a senior revenue leader who's responsible for sales strategy to develop a plan for how you're going to generate, respond, and convert the demand that is out there in order to bring your products and services to market, in order to hit your revenue goals, okay? So you have to understand, you need to understand the noun of what it is. You understand the activities, okay? The verbs, what are the to-do things? What are the things that we're actually doing in order to make sure that you can reach the desired outcome? And I think oftentimes we're just going to develop a plan. So your sales strategy cannot just be a budget request. I just need more money, okay? But your sales plan, your sales strategy is the thing, when done correctly, that allows you to go to the upper lords and say, hey, I have a revenue goal that you need me to hit, and I have a really robust plan for how we're going to get there, and I need the correct amount of funds that's going to allow me to basically bring this to life. And this is where a clear strategy makes that easy. It makes it believable. But what we often do is we say, hey, we're currently at 5 million. You want me to get to 7 million this year. So we're going to need this, this, and this, and this, and this. And the business is like, yeah, but what's the plan? How does that work exactly? Because the biggest difference that we're going to see with a sales strategy and the rest of the strategies is something that isn't often touched on, and it's really understanding the difference between the internal requirements and the external requirements, right? So a lot of us, let's jump into some more detail. So let's say going deeper on sales strategy. My writing's just getting smaller. I just punish you every time I create these videos. So when we think about sales strategy, it follows the same structure as the strategy framework that I've been teaching throughout all of these videos, which is there are particular components that exist in all strategy development that should be followed. That's going to make your life easier and also make it easier to connect the dots between what you're doing and thinking through with your peers in marketing, product, data, customer success, but also more importantly with the broader upper lords, okay? So when we think about sales strategy, we've got the goals and objectives. You saw all of that. You understand the definition, right? We're trying to generate, respond, and convert demand so that we can bring our products and services to market and hit our revenue goals. Boom, I knew I'd get there. Our go-to-market strategy is defining really clearly where do we play, and how do we win. It's also dictating the processes that buyers go through. It's acknowledging that collectively across the organization, right? So really quickly, let's just put it down, right? So it's telling us what the buyer journey is. It's telling us what the go-to-market processes are. So how do we augment ourselves as an organization to support the buyer along their journey? Okay, which can be short, long, however, right? So the go-to-market processes. It's also helping us to establish our methodology, our way of thinking, right? So the way that we sequence events and activities that support the process, okay? So are we a value selling organization? Are we a commander message? Are we a spin selling challenger, spiced, whatever your flavor? But it's really about how you think through the stuff that you're gonna do. The next thing that we start to look at is this that then helps us find the right people and partners that can help us make this come to life. So we develop at this level. Do we have a partner strategy? Is partners our go-to-market this year? Do we have affiliates? Do we have SIs? Do we need more leaders? All of those kind of things. They get established right at the top. That is not always your responsibility. You play a role in that. And then from here, we start to make some really critical tech decisions, right? It's not your decision at a sales level, at a marketing level to say, we should be using AI. The business needs to develop the culture, appetite, and systems to say, we are now opening our doors to AI. We want AI, we're going to take an AI first approach to everything, because that means that collectively everybody's on the same table. What you don't want to do is build AI into your little plan and now you're fighting the rest of the organization who are anti-AI and not set up to govern it in the right way, depending on the size, okay? So now that we have our go-to-market, that is kind of like the governing body of all strategies moving forward. It's the governing body, I'm going to put that up, right? Built with the upper lords. What you're trying to understand is, how do I now structure? I'm going to do the same structure that we've done before. All right. So we've understand where do we play. This normally comes here, right? So where do we play? Now, if you're a sales leader, what this is saying is what effectively is the ICP? What is the big part of the market that we are focused on? What is the part of the market that is part of the bigger market, our target addressable market that we're focused on, where we know that we have the best propensity to be successful. And now you have to structure your own strategy around making sure that that's possible. So if you are responsible for various different teams and people at different levels, you have to say, okay, so how do we capture that? As a sales team, how do we think about how we capture this part of the market and how we structure so we're looking at things like, now that we know that we focus on that TAM, we're talking about territories, we're talking about comms plans, team structure and design. Like, we're thinking about all of this right down here. Okay, so we're doing where do we play? Now we've got how do we win, right? When we think about how do we win, we're effectively saying, what is the unique access that we have that makes us successful in capturing that market? So where do we go and how do we approach this where we are uniquely positioned to solve this very specific problem in this market, so that we're not just trying to say, well, here's our ICP and we're just going to send emails. You're really thinking uniquely about what is it that you can create. Do you have a senior leader that is a thought leader? Do you have a senior leader that actually was an ex-Googler and now this company is, we focus on Google Suite selling, Google Workspace selling. I don't know, right? But effectively we're trying to say, what is it that's unique about us and how we think about that? Because what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these things and then we're going to make a plan about how we go about accessing, right? So how do we get access to this repeatedly, successfully, repeatedly and successfully, right? It might mean that you've got special tech expertise that no one else has. You have developed a new AI tool that no one else has. But this is effectively saying, how do we win? In our sales team, how do we go about winning? Okay, so there's lots of different tactics and things to think about, but this is holistically. This is not just one-off stuff. This is like what powers our approach for how we capture this chosen market in particular territories. Do we go in full force? Do we go in and we land in a territory and we do big events? That's our thing, right? That's how we gain access. The next thing is understanding. Now that we have this in place, my sales strategy really needs to think about that buyer process, right? We have to understand exactly what it is that people do and really get that specific in different territories, different sizes, right? So when we're talking about territories, it's also like, is it SMB? Is it enterprise? Is it mid-market? Like, you're already going to establish that you're going after this thing, this big space up here in the go-to-market that was built with the upper lords. As a sales leader now, you're trying to figure out the structure, but the buyer journey is going to look different across those different parts of the market. So it's really clear that you say, okay, we know the experience that we want to create. We understand collectively, just very holistically, how does a person make a decision about what we sell and the outcomes that we support. Now you have to understand, what does the nuances look like? What do those nuances look like across those different types of verticals, regions? China's going to be different to the US, it's going to be different to Germany, it's going to be different to France. If you are a global VP of sales, you have your work set out to do this effectively, because you will hear your European colleagues say, I don't know why our US sales leader keeps telling us to sell this way. It doesn't work here, right? So it's so critical that we think through this. If you are looking at the buyer journey and saying, the way that they do this is purely RFP, okay? It's all RFP. Have you built the mechanisms to understand that, right? Probably not. It's okay. We're here to help. The other part is your sales process. Now, your sales process, particularly when you've identified how you're structuring the market that you're going after, needs to be reflective of the experience and the journey that you're trying to create for your prospects and what they genuinely go through. So now you are responsible for understanding what are the semi-linear steps that we are going to build systematically and culturally inside our organization that's going to help us to provide a predictable path for how we transfer revenue to closed won or closed potential revenue to closed won or closed lost. That's your job. Your job is to do that. You are accountable and you're responsible for getting the people around you that can allow you to do that. So that's going to be another part. The other part, of course, is going to be around your methodology. Oh, I missed out one of the boxes. It's going to be around your method. I didn't spell anything there. Methodology. Okay. Your methodology now, you're like, okay, this is our sales process. We've got various different ones. Can we create a holistic sales methodology that's going to support the process that we have to go through? Okay. So this is where we're talking specifically about a combination of both sales methodologies and deal qualification methodologies. I made a video on this. Don't at me right now. Go to the video and go check it out so you can understand the nuances and the differences, because there's going to be a way and a how about how you do things. Okay, so a sales process that says we have a first discovery call. Okay, sales manager, what do you want me to do in that discovery call? I've got my idea of what a discovery call looks like from my previous role, and this is how I do it. No, you have to define a methodology. So if you are working to try to understand what is the way that you sequence events throughout your sales process, build it internally, go online and find the freebies so you can build your own first iteration, go outside and bring in a consulting firm. There are tons, including us, that can help you shape this. But you need a methodology so that you can own it. If you don't have a methodology, what happens? People do whatever they want, and then you have super reps and underperforming reps because people have their own discretion on what they do. We want control and structure as much as possible, and we want to give our reps the creative freedom. The next thing is people and partners, right? So very important in your sales team. Okay, who do you need to make all of this work? This is all I see in sales plans, right? When I see budget requests from sales leaders, it's like, we need 10 more people. That's it. That's the plan. And then when the senior leadership and finance come back and they're like, yeah, you're getting free. Because you haven't developed anything compelling enough that allows me to think that I should even give you all of the money that's required to get 10 people in. Because getting 10 people in is pretty expensive, right? And if you haven't created something that shapes a clear plan, then you're not going to get it, right? So the people and partners are not just your reps, but the supporting. Do you need sales operations, revenue operations? Do you need sales admin? Do you need a deal desk? I don't know where that sits. It depends on the structure of your organization. But effectively, you have to think about how that looks. If your business at the collective level of the overall go-to-market has decided that partners is the way in, then there's going to be part of this where you are responsible for identifying those partners, because they're giving you permission at the top to say, we are going to focus on SIs and we're going to focus on tech partners as an example. So you're down here saying, well, in our region, in our territory, out of the partners that we already have, we want to focus on these partners. And we also think we have a gap. So we're going to also need 3 or more partners in this space, because we've noticed that a lot of our customers have a particular type of ERP system, enterprise resource planning solution, like an SAP, Ariba, those kind of things. So we're like, actually, we should probably partner with those, because if we partner with them, we get access, right? How do we win? It all ties back. Now, once we get that together, the next thing is always going to be tech, right? Now, most people in their plan, their sales strategy is, I need 10 people and I need a sales platform. And finance is like, no and no. Congratulations, now come with another plan. All right. So your sales strategy, the technology is really what do you need in order to make all of this happen? I say that your sales strategy here really gets powered by this. Technology powers the strategy. You don't buy tech and then try to make it work. Okay. I have personally been bought into companies where they're like, hey, Hannah, we just bought this, make it work. And it's like, that's going to make me look bad now. One, I've never heard of this platform. Why did you buy it? And secondly, what was the reason for it? Okay. So we understand our go-to-market. We understand our sales strategy fits as an expression of our wider go-to-market. So what happens now once we've started to pull this work together? It takes work. It's hard. Get over it. Okay, so now what we're trying to do is we take so from like sales, let's call it sales strategy to reality. Let's call it that. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't made any notes, guys. I'm just rolling with it. Okay, so we've got our sales strategy. So sales strategy complete. Okay, what does your sales strategy need to tell the rest of the business in order for one, because this is just a complete, right? So we need to know what the sales strategy needs to say to the business in order for you to make it happen. Okay, so the whole point that you build a sales strategy is so that you can do the job of connecting and reaching your revenue goals. Okay, this is a $sign, by the way. Okay, so you build this strategy which tells a nice plan, it provides a nice map and all the vehicles and all the things that are going to get you there so you can hit your revenue goal. Now, one thing is, what you need the rest of the organization to do is be aware of it, right? So they need to be aware of it. They need to believe it, right? Now, how do they believe it? I would advise that you quantify it, okay? So in order for someone to believe it, it needs to be quantified and grounded in data. Now, I am more a data-informed individual rather than a data-driven, because data can be warped to do whatever you want it to do. But if you allow it to provide one variable, one data point, allow the data to provide a data point. You know what I mean? If you allow it to inform your thinking rather than drive your thinking, you're most likely to add a bit more impartiality into it. So what I would say is it needs to be quantified and grounded in data. What's one of the best ways to do that? Well, you think about the core KPIs that drive your business and your team. Okay, so you're going to have various KPIs in sales, right? Things like, I don't know, just think about like win rate, you're going to have like win rate, ACV, sales cycle. You're going to have stuff like pipeline. There's 100 KPIs you can look at, right? But let's just say those, right? Pipeline opportunities for those who are not aware. And what you need to do is you need to show how your sales strategy impacts stuff in your KPIs. Because if you tell me I need 10 sales reps, I'm going to say why. And you're going to say because last year on average, the average rep hit 830K. So we think if we get 10 more, we can do 8.3 million. Now, that is not the case. And this is why it's so important that we understand what's the overall go-to-market and how does it connect to the rest of the organization. And that's what I wanted to get into. I said, I promised I'd show you how it connects to the organization. Okay, so they need to believe it. All right, because the moment you make these plans, that we need, I'm going to use the 10 reps, right? The 10 rep stuff. So we need 10 reps. Now, 10 reps equals 8.3 million in more revenue. And you're like, boom, that's a no-brainer. Why would my CFO not say that? I've just grounded it in data, it's informed. Because the first thing your CEO or your CFO is going to say is, where is the pipeline coming from? You see that sales strategy that you put together, you need to articulate where the pipeline's coming from. So you're saying, oh, okay, so I need this, and we got this buyer journey, we got this sales process that we're delivering, we got this methodology. In those, the quantifiable elements that you need to add is, oh, well, marketing in their plan, because you've spoken to them, have said they are investing more in ads. And we believe that's going to generate X amount of opportunities, as well as the learnings we're going to get from there, where the team can do X, Y, and Z. That's going to allow us to generate extra pipeline, which is going to support the headcount, the need for 10 reps. What most people do is they request 10 reps. The CFO or maybe the CEO or the team do not provide enough due diligence. And then what happens is they get 10 reps at the beginning of the year, kind of. They leave the end of the year with 4 reps. The 6 reps didn't quite make it. There was not enough value. Some people left voluntarily. A few got fired or managed out. So not only have you paid a hiring fee, you've spent time bringing them on, your own hours interviewing them, you spent time ramping them, and then now you've got to pay them off because you have to manage them out of the business. And legally, depending on what state you're in or what town or what city or whatever, you now have to pay them. So you spent 50, 60 grand on someone who's of a senior rep on just fees, and they haven't performed. We can't afford to do that anymore, particularly with 6 people leaving the business, right? So we have to think about everything that we're trying to build in our sales strategy. Is it quantified and grounded in data that allows us to reflect quite clearly in the key KPIs? I always say that. The key performance indicators, that it's actually reasonable request, okay? Because what's going to happen is the board might say, I'm looking at the conversion rates and I don't understand how we're going to have a requirement for this many people. Or I don't understand why we're going to spend so much money on, what was one of those things that I suggested? That partner, because they have to go through with some big partners, you need to pay to be a partner. You got to pay to play, right? They may say, I don't get it. I don't understand how we're going to get enough value from this partner. So you really have to do the groundwork, and it's not easy. I get it. Is it hard? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. All right. So we have to make sure that we do this. Then it goes into what I've mentioned before in the other videos, because there's going to be a few red flags. So one, externally, what is happening in the market? You've got this sales strategy where you're going to do lots of events, and then there's COVID. Now what? Right? So we have to check externally. If you have business in a region that is right now going through some kind of crazy crisis, it's not feasible. If you are trying to sell into a vertical that is experiencing mad turbulence because it's in logistics and you can't travel for your particular seas, or it's in retail and the tariffs in a particular region because of where they're manufactured are going up, or taxes or inflation, whatever it is, you need to understand how that is externally impacting you. The other side is the capabilities, right? The capabilities is really where you start to look at what is the actual plan and what's the gap, right? So you need 10 reps in, they're going to need training. Do you have an enablement person? No. So how are they going to get trained? Because you can't train 10 people. You probably won't have the time if you already have an established team, as an example, right? So you're trying to understand the business's capability. You're going to recommend Claude. Everyone wants Claude co-work, right? Claude is going to take over the world and do all of our jobs. That's great. Do you have the internal expertise? If not, the time to learn, upskill in a way that is going to allow you to be effective? No? Okay, so maybe we've got to really think about the capabilities, because if there is a gap here that's going to allow you to actually reach your revenue goal, a capability gap, then you have to make it really clear. I haven't used Brown before. You've got to make it really clear to the organization, what are those gaps? And let's just say gap number 1 is people, right? Gap number 2 is expertise, right? Gap number 3 is time, 4 is cost, right? Let's just say that. If there are gaps here, you need to say to the organization, which ones are we willing to solve? Can we solve? Is it feasible? Is it viable? How does it conflict with other things? Blah, there's loads of things. So the business may say, actually, the only thing that we can do, cost is fine, we'll fix that out. we don't have the people. We don't have the people to do the necessary training or whatever it is. That's just the example I gave. We have the expertise, so they're good, and we don't have the time. We need to make them hit the ground running. Just that alone is going to make you go back and rethink your hiring. We cannot hire people into our team that haven't done this before because we don't have the time to train them and we don't have the resources, right? So that capability will flip your entire sales strategy on its head if you haven't addressed it. And it also makes you look ridiculous when you go to present a sales strategy because there's gonna be one of the upper lords that is a little bit of an ass. It always is, right? And that person is waiting for you to show up. They're like, I can't wait for this person to show up so I can shut them down, because guess what? They have ego and personal challenges and we can't address that in a boardroom. We just got to leave them to it. But we can make sure that we set ourselves up for success in that conversation because we're building a plan that is based on reality. Okay, so I always say externally, take out your capability. There's other things that we need to consider, but for now, that is the main part. So when we're building our sales strategy, the whole goal is to build a plan that's going to help us to get to our revenue goals. Those revenue goals, of course, are tied to the overall goals and objectives of the organization. And our sales strategy should be an expression of something that is partially already agreed at the top, directionally for the organization. And we have to consider the other strategies that are happening alongside us, meet with our peers. We don't build our sales strategy in isolation, because if you are planning to drive up the ACV as an example and product are not planning to improve the product, how is that actually going to happen? Okay, because if that is part of your strategy this year, we're going to drive up the ACV, okay? That is how we're going to gain access to a unique part of the market, by bringing more value. And you're like, we don't have any more products to sell and it's not very good. We don't have product parity even. So I know that it feels like, oh my God, there's so many layers, Hannah, this is impossible. Well, it's hard, right? And that's why the tenure of senior revenue leaders is so short for the most part, particularly in the B2B tech and SaaS world, because a lot of this stuff doesn't get done and people don't make the space. If you are a sales leader coming into the organization and they're asking you to make a 30, 60, 90-day plan, that's your first red flag. I think they are all BS, because you can achieve a lot more in 30 days and just focus on that. Who knows what the hell is going to happen in 90 days? You do not know. Focus on 30 days, because no one ever looks at the 60 and 90 days. It doesn't even come to fruition. So what we want to be doing is we want to say, do I have the time? Will you give me the time that is required in order to get this done? And the access to people and stuff, right? You don't be waiting around 4 weeks to get access to the CRM because there's a freaking waiting list with IT and they don't let you in because they got you need fast action. So I always say, when it comes to sales strategy, we should be asking what resources and what structures they follow in these organizations so that you can build a good one. All right, so we covered a lot of ground. I think I want to stop talking now. I've been talking a lot, which I love to do, right? But just remember, your sales strategy is I'm going to make sure I read this. Let's go back and read it, because you know me, I'm just going to make it up. So your sales strategy is your comprehensive plan for how you are going to, generate, respond, and convert demand in order to bring or deliver your products and services to market so you can reach your revenue goals. That's it. So I want you to understand that I need to build a plan. This plan has to indicate very clearly how I'm going to generate, respond, and convert demand. And then I'm going to show how that is going to connect to revenue goals this year or whatever period it is. Okay? All right. Until next video. See you later.